Hey kiddos, and welcome to your third Monday message. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who is this monster and why is she posting on the first grade channel? Don't worry, it's still me. It's Miss Cantu. Yes, I promise. But now you're asking yourself, well, okay, it's Miss Cantu, but why is she dressed up like a monster? What kind of monster is she? These are all very good questions, and I am going to answer every single one of them. So let's start with why I'm dressed like a monster. I am dressed like a monster today because I'm going to be reading you a book all about monsters. Now, the second question was, what kind of monster am I? Well, I don't really know. I kind of just made it up off the top of my head. Now, to make something up out of your brain, you gotta use your creativity. Well, creativity is something I've seen a lot of you guys talk about when you're turning in your assignments, talking about what you do with your free time, all that kind of stuff. So today, we're reading a book about monsters, but it's not just about monsters. It's also about creativity and using your imagination. Okay, so let's go ahead and start reading our book. So this is the book Where the Wild Things Are. The story and pictures are by Maurice Sendak. And I know that some of you have probably read this book once, twice, maybe even more times than that. But just like I always say, sometimes we reread our favorite stories and we learn new things. So let's get started. Here we go. Oh, look at those cool monsters. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind. Oh, look, he's got a hammer and he's putting the nail in there. Do you see the tent he's making? Oh, and he's standing on books. I think some of those things we're probably not supposed to be doing. What do you guys think? And another. Oh, look, it's another kind of mischief. Mischief is kind of a big kid's word, don't you think? It means troublemaking. Have any of you guys made some mischief since you've been out of school? I bet you have. His mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, I'll eat you up. So he went to bed without eating anything. My goodness, can you imagine being so bad that your parents send you to bed without dinner? Whew! He does not look happy if I look at his face. That very night, in Max's room, a forest grew. And grew. And grew. Until his ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world all around. It's like the room is totally gone. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max, and he sailed off through the night and day. And he sailed in and out of weeks and almost over a year to where the wild things are. That's a pretty cool sea dragon. When he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth. Gnashed means they're kind of like pushing them up against each other. And they rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. Till Max said, Be still! And tamed them with the magic trick of staring into all of their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. And they made him king of all the wild things. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. Rumpus. That's a weird word. Do you guys know what rumpus means? I wonder if this picture is going to give us any clues. Looks like we're jumping, we're shouting, their mouths are open. He definitely looks like he's shouting. Maybe a rumpus is like a party or a celebration. Oh my goodness. They're swinging through the trees. Look at that. He's riding on his back. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. And Max, the king of all the wild things, was lonely and wanted to be someone where someone loved him best of all. Then, all around from far away across the world, he suddenly smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. Look at that. He's got supper after all. And his supper was still hot. The end. So in the story, we read a lot about a character named Max. Max was cranky, he didn't like his dinner, he got sent to his room. In the story, we saw that Max traveled to a faraway land. Now, I want to ask you something. Did he really travel to a faraway land? What do you think? Well, I think that he traveled to a faraway land using his imagination. And his creativity created all the monsters in his faraway land. So this week's message is going to come with a challenge to you, all right? I want to challenge you to create a monster out of your mind, out of your imagination. Can't be a monster that already exists. It has to be one that you have created. Now, you have two ways you can do this, okay? You can find some stuff in your house and dress up like I did, and you can take a picture of it and post that. Or you can do this as a STEM challenge and use any materials around your house to create a monster. Now, I dressed up as a monster, but I also created a monster. So I want to show you this. This is the monster that I created. It's even got little wings that flap, okay, little feathers down here, okay? And I don't really know what to call this thing. It's definitely made up. I don't think this is a creature that exists, but I decided to call it a glook. You know, creativity. It's what I came up with, okay? Now, I want to see exactly what you can come up with. So, get to making, get to putting on. I want to see what kind of monsters you can make. Have fun. See you next week, guys. Bye.